And we will continue with Pedro Reyes, that I've known, and I have 2 kids with him for the last also 20 years. And Pedro Reyes studied architecture, but he considers himself a sculptor, although his work integrates elements of theater, psychology, and activism. That is why I define Pedro as an artivist. He has a complex mind and is a very prolific artist. At the same time, he makes giant stone sculptures, promotes the disarmament of guns and nuclear weapons, shares his home library to the public with more than 30,000 books. He creates beautiful abstract paintings made with the sacred amada paper and supports other artists by making books and exhibitions of their work. And sometimes he also makes architecture and furniture design. Welcome, Pedro.
Well, thank you so much, Carla, for the invitation, and Lee for putting this great, inspiring conference together. I'm very happy to also have heard the previous presentations. I know that we may be kind of a little bit delayed in the schedule, so I will try to make my presentation short. I wanted to share with you today not all elements of my practice, but one in particular which deals with disarmament. This is a project that I started 15 years ago called Palas por Pistolas. And basically, what the shovels that you see here are made from this metal, from gun parts. I started back in 2007 a campaign to collect weapons and we collected in the first installment of this project 1,500 guns that were melted and made into 1,500 shovels to plant 1,500 trees. And actually, I have to credit Doris Sommer for giving me inspiration for this project, since she introduced me to Antanas Mockus, the former mayor of Bogota, Colombia, who had done similar efforts to reduce gun violence. And I think that this is basically a kind of idea of turning an agent of death into an agent of life, to transform the metal that has been engineered to kill. And then after doing this project with the shovels, I got a kind of invitation to Ciudad Juárez, where they had other kind of a weapon disarmament campaigns, but they didn't know what to do with the guns. So instead of doing more shovels, I thought that maybe some other elements could be done. Especially, I was interested in also not melting the metal, but like doing something that you could see where how the guns had like kind of been defeated, and now we're having a different purpose, a sort of change in polarity, where, for instance, like a flute, like a shotgun or a rifle, if drilling the holes in the right place could become a flute. You can see here one in action. Out of these different gun parts, we have made many different instruments. Some are mechanized, like the ones that you see here. Some others have been used by musicians to perform concerts in different parts of the world. And I like very much that, you know, like I build these instruments with the help of musicians and welders, and then these instruments travel to different cities where local musicians will activate them. I am not a musician, I am not a composer, so I'm always very excited to see what kind of music they produce. And I like the idea that the project takes this collaborative dimension where the instruments will lead to a new artwork, which is these different instruments, which, for instance, like this, like a sort of kind of like a piano or something with 3 octaves made from different barrels from guns. And when I had been doing these kind of exhibitions worldwide, often there's the assumption that I do this because people think that the problem of gun is like a kind of something that is specific to Mexico. And I wanted to kind of I think guns are a universal problem. You know, they cause suffering and death everywhere in the world. According to some statistics, in the northern hemisphere, most gun deaths are suicides, and in the southern hemisphere is mostly a crime or war. But you know, like I believe that the violence starts at the factory where weapons are made. So I wanted to kind of see that the problem is that there is an industry that profits from putting into the world these weapons. So and the blame always falls in whoever pulls the trigger, but the factories that produce weapons are always off the hook, and there's never scrutiny about how these weapons are, you know, like done all this harm. So what I did was to take guns from specific brands and make these music boxes. This is, for instance, like Glock, which is an Austrian brand, and when you crank the lever, you know, like it will play Mozart, no, which is also Austrian. This is, for instance, like Beretta rifles, which is an Italian company that has been around for 500 years. And that can tell you something about the resilience of these companies and how they had played a role in the colonial expansion in the world, and continues to thrive even more every day. You know, like gun manufacturers are always profiting whatever the circumstances. Is one of those sectors of industry that if the world is like suffering, they become richer and richer. So when you crank this kind of a sort of glockenspiel, the Beretta rifles play Vivaldi. So this series is called Return to Sender because it's a sort of this is, for instance, like this music box now. I don't know if you hear it, but it's playing a piece by Mozart. So I wanted to kind of explain how there's a systemic problem where we need to stop violence by stigmatizing the companies that manufacture weapons. Also, another effort to try to address the, what I'm trying to do here is to try to work in two levels. One is direct action, which is taking the actual guns and turning them into musical instruments. That's a kind of a small but real and direct effect on this matter, which is the metal where the guns are made. But also in a more kind of a symbolic or critical way to try to point at the systemic problems that allow the military-industrial complex to thrive at the expense of suffering in the world. And this is a picture of a workshop called Amendment to the Amendment, which I've been doing in different places in the United States. Also, I have to kind of, I'm in depth with some of the methodology of pretext that Doris presented earlier, since what we're doing here is giving, in a group of, let's say, 200 people that are taking part in the workshop, each team is given a copy of the Second Amendment, which is one of the pieces of legislation that blocks most progress that you want to do regarding gun control. So the National Rifle Association always, speaks about the Second Amendment as a way to block any progressive legislation. And what we do here in this workshop is to give, to break down the group in groups of 10, and each group has the task to rewrite the law, to rewrite the Second Amendment, which is only 2 lines, like it says, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of people to keep and bear arms should not be infringed. And what happens is that each team will kind of discuss how would they change this law. And then at the end, every team reads how they decided to improve or change the Second Amendment. And this becomes like a kind of a resources where basically we are trying to do several things. One is to break the assumption that you need to be a lawyer or a specialist to design laws. This is actually like a kind of concept from Augusto Boal that he used to call legislative theater. And second, to just introduce in the public imagination that laws are not something that is unmutable. An amendment is precisely something that was improved or fixed from a kind of a previous law. So amendment to the amendment is that kind of intention to change this. I also made this sculpture, which is a sort of allegory to this idea of a hand holding a pencil, because Antanas Mockus used to say that in history or in life, we should not write with a pen, we should write with a pencil, because we should allow ourselves to edit what we do and to know that whatever we have written, we can always do little improvements. So that's why the hand is holding the pencil upside down. I want to show really quick one of the last developments of this project.
Tip was grabbing on.
Okay, let me see. You don't see, are you seeing?
Have the frame and trigger
assembly as a single unit because
Let me
according
see
to
if I
federal
am.
regulations, that has to be
Is audio coming through?
to destroy.
Yes,
fire.
it is.
Both here and we see.
So they'll probably look a little different than this.
You're seeing a video, right?
Yes, we are, and we listen.
Okay. Well, this is a workshop that I just made in New Mexico with teens that have been that from a high school as you know, there's a sort of big increase in school shootings and gun violence. 16% increase last year. 16% of this and what I designed to do with this high school was that they take gun parts and then they are making flower vases. These flower vases sell for $1,500, and that the full percent of the proceeds of this sale from these gun bases go to gift cards for gun buybacks. So you can get with a gift card that is $150. You buy back a handgun, and if you have a semi-automatic gun, you take for $250. So in general, like if you buy one of these vases, that immediately translates into 10 guns that are taken out from circulation and destroyed. So the idea is that, how do you design how do you do a design product that every gun base is different, is made from these different parts. So, the students have room to kind of modify and come up with a design themselves. And there's like this kind of a permanent cycle where there is a sort of instead of a creative destruction, is a sort of destructive creation where we are destroying guns and creating gun bases.
Esta canción y los lleva a hacer una colaboración con
So you see that's the end result of this. And then let's see if I can go back to the presentation. Okay, are you seeing the slideshow again?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then I want to share lastly this involvement with disarmament of small weapons led me to work with the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons, ICANN, which is they won the Peace Nobel Prize in 2017. And back in the 60s, 70s, and especially the 80s, there was massive activism to ban nuclear weapons, which actually had an effect. If you think that in New York in 1982, there were 1 million people marching, actually it's the largest march documented in the United States. That can give you an idea of how wide the rejection of everyone in the planet was against nuclear weapons. But after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union, of the former Soviet Union, people thought that the problem was over, and now there's the community of activists has shrunk significantly, and but however, we are closer than we have ever been to experience nuclear war in our lifetimes. So we are now in a full new arms race where trillions of dollars are being spent on renewing the world's nuclear arsenals. And this is never on the news. There's kind of a no mobilization done. So in order to reintroduce the idea of nuclear weapons and how they should be banned, I started working first with the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists and then with ICANN on this campaign called Zero Nukes. And what we did was to translate the concept of zero nuclear weapons, or the term, into different languages. And the idea is that I had seen this rhetoric with small weapons that they say the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. But that's kind of a propaganda from gun manufacturers to just keep spending or keep their businesses profiting. Where the same way that statistics prove that just more weapons in any community or any home doesn't make you safer, but actually increases your chances of accidental deaths, etc. I think that the same, it's a miracle that we haven't had a nuclear war, and it will be a miracle if we don't have it in the next years. So the idea is that no one gets a gun. And no one gets no one gets a nuclear weapon. Nuclear weapons should be banned, and actually have been banned now. The Treaty on Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons became effective in 2021, and it has been endorsed by 91 countries. So by international law, people almost don't know this, but by international law, nuclear weapons are illegal. So now there's like a kind of a ban on nuclear weapons. The next step is to popularize this idea and to stigmatize nuclear weapons in order to make collective pressure around the world for the 9 countries that have nuclear weapons to dismantle their arsenals. So that's why the campaign is called Zero Nuclear Weapons, because it makes a focus in that the goal is not to stop nuclear arsenals but like to eliminate all nuclear weapons. We have done like a kind of different kind of tactics, that often have to be like easy to deploy, like the inflatable sculpture that you saw, or these balloons that are like a kind of a giveaway. This was done in Times Square in New York, because we wanted to kind of create a prop that had like all the information about the Treaty on Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons for people to get informed. So to do a sort of innocuous activity, like a balloon giveaway. These balloons, people start playing with them, and eventually they read what is in them. But we don't sell these balloons. We give these balloons away in exchange for a follow to ICANN, where they will find all, they will start getting in their feed all the information about the prohibition of nuclear weapons. And we also created something that was a mobilization expo, where we invited all the groups that are working to ban nuclear weapons. For instance, there's the Union of Concerned Scientists there, and the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, and different groups that are working to eliminate nuclear weapons. And then, I think I have some other works to show, which are, for instance, like this one, which is, if you take the explosive power of all nuclear weapons and divide it by among the number of people on Earth, it ends up that each person has been allocated with 238 kilos of TNT. No, like just imagine that you would need only like kind of a 50 kilos of TNT to blow the World Trade Center. No, so every person has enough power to blow like a kind of an entire neighborhood, or with and that's we haven't solved world hunger, we haven't solved all like climate change, but we have made sure that every person on Earth has this destructive power allocated to themselves. No. Also, we have also done a number of performative kind of experiences, such as this one with a dance group called No Words, and with costumes that are protest garments designed by Carla, which have been used to perform in different spaces. And lastly, I want to share with you the last development on this undertaking, which is a campaign that we're doing called Artists Against the Bomb. Artists Against the Bomb is a series of posters that present both historical artwork as well as new commission posters. For instance, this is a work by Magdalena Bakanovitz, who had designed this kind of tower that is like a hand that was supposed to go, it was meant to be for the Hiroshima, and the hand was as tall as the height where the atomic bomb exploded. Monica Bombicini, an artist living in Berlin, made this poster called "My Body Became Oppressed" into a column. This is a reference to the Hiroshima shadows. That if you were walking in Hiroshima, you would see shadows on the walls of buildings, and this is because in the flash of the atomic bomb, the bodies, the flesh and blood of the bodies was stamped on the buildings just because of the flash of the explosion. There's different posters that other artists have done. Some are writers. For instance, like this poem by Mónica de la Torre is a list of the 9 countries that have nuclear weapons: US, Russia, China, France, the UK, Israel, North Korea, India, and Pakistan. And what she does is to start to dismantle in alphabetical order the letters as a kind of metaphor of the dismantling of the nuclear arsenal that we are hoping to achieve. And sometimes they're more playful, kind of posters, like this one by Harold Fletcher, that people may care more for little kittens than for the end of the world. So he's trying to kind of raise this issue with this appealing image. And the nice thing about these posters is that you can download these works and print them yourself. The artists have granted access and reproduction rights to these posters. So the idea is to have a kind of a show that you can print, and each of the participating artists has become an actor or agent that kind of promotes the circulation of other artists' works, because also what we are doing is that a little bit what we do is that every artist gets to nominate another artist. So all artists have also become curators of the project. And this is a metaphor of a chain reaction, not like we have invited like about 50 artists, but those 50 artists immediately became 100 artists, and then will become 200 artists as each of the artists is nominating other artists. These posters have been presented in different forms. So the poster exhibition, for instance, like this is in Vienna at the summit for the meeting state parties of the treaty. This is in Sardinia, Italy. This is in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where billboards were made with the posters. This is the music festival here in Mexico. We have also produced merchandise, T-shirts, etc. So in general, we have a kind of different strategies to try to kind of make these protest graphics circulate as much as possible. And I think that was, maybe I went through a little bit fast, but that's what I wanted to share with you, like the kind of a scope of the different kind of dimensions of these projects on disarmament. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for talking and showing us this work. It's very inspiring, the diversity also of the approach of these problems. I think many people will be willing to continue with you also in different countries. So our audience is very, I think, very eager to learn more and to help in this case. Thank you.
Lee.
Gracias, Pedro.